Welcome to this week's episode of She Speaks and She Leads. Today, I want to speak to the woman in business who really has this desire to create in-person experiences, whether that's a speaking, live events, retreats. And you're not just wanting to teach and deliver content, but you're really wanting to have and create experiences that transform. Experiences that when your audience walks out of that door, that experience lives on well beyond that period of time. Have you ever been in a room where you walk in and you're afraid about what's about to happen, right? And then after that, you walk out and something shifted in you, something's transformed, whether it's a new mindset, a new belief, a new action that you've taken. You can feel it in your system. And maybe you've been in a room that you've walked in and you're excited, you can't wait. And then you walk out and you go, why did I even waste my time? Two very different experiences. I've been in both. I've experienced the polar opposite of both. One where I've walked in really afraid about what to expect, really afraid of, oh my goodness, what happens if I walk out and I'm a completely different person, right? And I've walked out and something shifted. I'm a completely different person. And I've had the same fears and then walked out going, wow, was that it? How disappointing. What I knew in all of those experiences where I've had transformation, not only personally myself, but also witnessed other people in the room and their transformation, there was something unseen in that I wanted to know how. How do they do that? But in my wanting to know how, there was also this fear of going, oh, could I actually do that? It just feels like there's such a big gap from where I am now to that person that's on the stage, that's facilitating, that's holding. And there's always been this wanting to understand, how do I go from here to there to be able to host a room, hold a room, transform the room. And so I did what probably most of us do. We go at it alone, right? We kind of go in and we see and experience different things. Go, oh, yeah, I could do that. I could do that. Yeah. And that's, I don't think that's ego as such. Maybe there is a little bit of ego, but, there's this kind of like, I can't afford to invest. And does anyone really teach that? I don't know. Or, let me just experiment and play with it and see how I go. Or, I can see what they're doing and I'm just going to follow exactly that. And so I did. I went down that path of doing it myself. And back then, when I started really building my business and my brand, I was very much passionate about well-being and health, right? Really inspiring healthy living, well-being, because that was my lived experience. That was my story. That's what I was walking through. That was what I had become accredited with as a well-being coach. And in walking through that path of testing, trialing, I might have got one client here or there. And I really loved the idea, but there was no real transformation happening in the room. It felt like I was just spitting out content. There is a real art to it. And it's not until you experience it yourself that you start to unravel that. But experiencing it and then learning about the experience. What I mean by that is I wanted to obviously grow my business, the impact that I wanted to create around well-being. And then there it was, it popped up on my Facebook, this mentoring guide based in the US, that she was teaching how to create in-person events and experiences. And I just went, ding, 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 ding. I want to learn more. Now, she was hosting an online event about creating in-person experiences, which makes absolute sense because A, I was in Australia, she was in the US, and the idea that was her funnel to get you into her in-person experience. But here's the thing. She was also creating the experience online, right? And walking through the key elements of what it takes to create an in-person experience. She was also doing it online as well. So I was not only experiencing it with her, I was learning about the experience, right? She was like dissecting all the different things. For example, it'll be like, how I opened up my talk, right? Let's dissect that, how we connect to the room and set the energy in the room, right? Let's understand why we do certain things. It was such a phenomenal experience. I absolutely loved it. And I followed the process and understood. And then from that, I created my first in-person live experience. It was a 2-hour talk. And I think it was called something around 5 key steps to avoid burnout as a woman in corporate, something like that. Can't even remember. I probably have to look it up. And I was really excited because it was about finding the venue and why we pick particular venues. This was going to be a free event because it was the first time that I was doing it, right? And then it was like pulling all the pieces together because it wasn't just about content spitting, right? It was also about the participants having an actual experience with you because they get like a flavor, a taste of how you can support them, right? They didn't just walk in, get information, walk out and be sold to at the end, right? That to me is a time wasting kind of event and experience. I'm walking in, I'm giving you my time. If I didn't pay for it, I'm still giving you my time and my time is valuable, right? So we need, as speakers and facilitators and holders of space, we need to be respectful of that and be of service. Yeah. So having that mindset, I'm here of service. Okay. I'm going to take you through my 5 key steps, what it was, but I'm also going to give you a transformation so that when you walk out differently. Different mindset, new habit taken on board, new insight, new shift in perspective, right? And I absolutely loved understanding all the different components of what creates a transformational experience. And here's the thing, it's not just about the experience, it's also getting bums on seats, right? There's just so many components of it. And from memory, I think I had like 15 women register for the free event and 8 women showed up. And I was like, oh, I was a bit deflated, right? Because it's like 15 women signed up, 8 showed up. But out of those 8, 7 of the women had booked a call with me through that experience to explore working deeper with me. The 8th didn't because it was my mum. God bless, right? Always have a wing woman in the room, right? But what it taught me was the power of an in-person experience. And then the next level of depth when there's transformation in the room. I didn't have to do any selling. Me delivering a transformation was the selling. Me doing my gifts, my brilliance. And here's the thing. If you want to create an experience that is truly transformational, whether that is a 2-hour workshop, a talk, a 2-day event, or a retreat over 5 days, 7 days, right? You have to be in a room where you've experienced a transformation yourself to really see the value of it, right? Before you can build it yourself, you gotta feel it and live it. If I went to this mentor's online experience and didn't feel a transformation myself, I probably wouldn't even sign up, or it's because I wouldn't, like, I'm in Australia, she was in the US, and I'm getting taught online how to create in-person events, right? So straight away there was a bit of a disconnect. But because I experienced a transformation in that process and was able to see the possibility of what I could create with the support, with the teachings, with the learnings, I knew that it made sense to go further with her. And thankfully, I did. I actually worked with her in her business for a good period of almost 2 years, right, around creating transformational deep events, because there is a process around it. But even with a really great process, because there's many processes out there, right, you still need to bring the element of you in the room, your energy, your perspective, your story, your teachings, your way of transformation, because that's how you stand out. That's how you cut through the noise. We are living, or have been living, in a content-rich economy, an economy of attention, right? But what we're moving into is the economy of experience. More and more people are feeling tired, exhausted with the online space. More and more people are feeling isolated, and what they're wanting is an experience of coming together. But not just coming together and then having some form of transformation. Whether it's wanting to learn how to dance, whether it's getting better at yoga, whether it's, oh, I want to build a business, right? Whether it's wanting to take the stage, right? Whatever it is, people are wanting and needing this sense of community and shared experience together. Because when you share experience and transformation together, it becomes really powerful. I can tell you now, from the many in-person events, workshops, and experiences that I've been a part of that have been transformational, I have stayed connected to a lot of the people that I've walked the transformation together with. Super, super powerful. So this leads me to come back to what are some of the things to consider when you want to create and build an in-person event, workshop, retreat. The first thing is who. Who are you calling in the room? Who are you wanting to really support and help? What lights you up? Then is the what. What kind of transformation do you know how to do and hold? And here's the beauty of it. A lot of the times, what you feel may not necessarily be what they think they need. Okay. And this is where we can get stuck, because it's like, oh, I might have a problem where I don't have enough time in my day to have space. I'm too busy leading a company, leading a family. There is no time for space, right? I cannot step away. What they need, the transformation they need, is space, right? They can't see it right now, because right now they're just so blind. So the way you speak to them is not about, do you need more space to get away from things, right? They know that, yes, but in their mind, that's not even a priority or a possibility. Your transformation is about creating the space for them. Yeah? But when you go to speak about it, it's going to be a very different language. So I'm going into more teachings now, but I want you to think about, firstly, who you want to help, the transformation that you feel so called, so passionate, and so behind. And then what is it? What is it that you want to help them with? So it's the who, kind of like, who are the people you're calling in? You know, when I opened up today's episode, I'm calling in the women who want to create live events, experiences, retreats. See, that's the who. Who are you calling in? What do they desire? What do they want? And what is the transformation that you can help them, right? What can you help them go from A to B? So if I go back to when I opened my talk, the what is you don't even know where to begin. It seems so big and so far away. What if I stuff up, right? I'm speaking to all the challenges and problems that you may be thinking, experiencing, right? So when you think about creating a live experience, an event, a workshop, a retreat, who are you calling in? Specificity is key. And what is the challenge, problem, obstacle that you are here to work with and support, right? So I spoke to you the who and the what. I'm calling in, as an example, the women who want to create live events, experiences, and workshops. But they don't just want to deliver content, they want to transform in the rooms. That's who I'm calling. See the specificity in that? Yes? I can even get more specific too. And then the what is you don't even know where to begin, how to pull it all together. It seems so big, you know, to pull a transformational event. You might be having things of what if I stuff up? What if I don't get people signing up? How do I get people signing up? Right? There are just so many pieces to the puzzle of creating that experience. You see, so I'm speaking about some of the thoughts and thinkings, the problems, the obstacles of the women that I'm calling in. So when you think about the experience that you want to create, what are some of the obstacles that your potential audience may be having and experiencing? And then the next part is the how, right? How do I do that? So I gave you a bit of a story, yeah? And how do I even begin? So my story was how I worked with a guide. I worked with a guide who actually helped me learn how to create those experiences, all the pieces to the puzzle, right? I actually had an experience with her and then understood and dissected those pieces, right? So that was a bit of my story. So I'm giving you a bit of a kind of behind the curtain of how bringing it all together, right? And then, so you would be talking the same, the story about how you can bring it all together for them. So they can start to connect the dots, and we connect through stories, right? We absolutely connect through story because we see possibility. We see ourselves a part of that story. We can actually do teachings by using story. Story is so powerful, but there is also a way in how to share it. Yeah. And how to share it in an experience, in a transformational workshop, live event, retreat. The story is the bridge. It connects all the dots. Yeah. And then the last part is that, okay, what's the next step? So I didn't get to finish that part because I wanted to kind of give you a bit of a stripping back the curtains of a bit of a process. Yeah. So the next step, if you are, so I go back to the who. If you are a woman who wants to create live events, retreats that don't just deliver content, but actually transform the people in the room, then I want to invite you to experience a retreat. Actually experience what it is like to build a retreat, and the retreat is the curriculum. So you come on the retreat and you learn why we do particular things, how it impacts the transformation, why we bring it on this day and not that day, right? Where the story connects, right? And then we're actually going to build your experience on that retreat. That was my invitation for my Built by Her retreat, which is happening in Bali in June. So you would actually do the same. You would invite them to what your experience is, your live event, retreat, masterclass that connects the dots to what you spoke about, to who you're calling in. I didn't think that this would end up being a training, but you know what? I'm rolling with it and going with it. But I hope you enjoyed this, because what I wanted to show you is that there's so many pieces about creating a live and in-person event. Right now, as you receive this video, I am pulling the final pieces to my 2-day in-person event in Sydney, Reclaim. And what it took to not only market that 2-day experience, but to put the curriculum together, to put the workbooks together, to call in the women who desire the transformation that I'm going to be taking them through in that 2 days. There are a lot of pieces to creating live events, experiences, and retreats. So if you have had that feeling, that desire and wanting to do that for you, or not even knowing how it fits into your business, the Built by Her retreat happening in June in Bali this year, that I'm co-facilitating with Lisa, who is the retreat specialist, we are going to tear the curtain down. If you want to tear the curtain down, we're going to pull the curtain and walk you through why we do particular things at particular moments of the retreat and how we do that, right? Because if there's one thing I wanted to know, is I always wanted to know, how do they create that moment? Why do they do that and that? And not only did I learn from my own mentor and guide, also bringing Lisa's over 30 years experience in creating retreats, but there's also the element that I learned from doing my master's in neuro-linguistic programming around holding the space, holding the room, the different elements of that, right? It's going to be exciting. So if you want to know more, drop me a message or reply to wherever you are tuning in, listening, or seeing this, and ask me about my retreat in Bali on the 7th to the 13th of June this year, 2026. All right, that's it for this week's episode. It turned out to be a training. Why not? Have an amazing week. Bye for now.